In the 1970s, punks had tried to shake the rock establishment out of what they saw as its apathy.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated? Born in the USA, I was born in the USA.
But by the beginning of the 80s, punk had faded away, and it seemed as if the music business was going to stick to the tried and tested formula of guitar-based anthems belted out in huge stadiums, preferably by white musicians. Rock music was fast becoming a corporate business on a global scale.
Rockin' daddy in the USA now.
To gain airplay on the all-important FM radio, many black groups had also sweetened their sound.
What you gonna do? You wanna get down?
But just when it seemed as if the whole world of rock and roll might be getting too comfortable with itself, as always, something came along to bring the music right back down to street level. This new revolution was to be greeted with as much fear and suspicion as when the very first rock and rollers had disrupted the airwaves. Appropriately, it came not from the elegant Manhattan of the music business, but from the Badlands of the Bronx.
For the perfect beat, searching for the perfect beat, for the perfect beat, seeking for the perfect beat. I must get mine.
Rap was always here. You know, it was from way back in the time when God talked to Adam, Moses, all the prophets, he was rapping to them. When you have the Caesar and all them, when they ended talking about "Thou art forsaken me" and stuff, they were rhyming in their time. And even when you had Shakespeare and all that, he was rapping and rhyming in his time. So rap was always here.
Young blacks in the Bronx had evolved a distinctive style of breakdancing and street graffiti known as hip-hop, with a soundtrack provided by local DJs like Bambaataa. In classic hip-hop style, he himself had once been a member of a local street gang, the Black Spades, and he never forgot the political struggles black leaders had fought in the 60s.
What I did is took all these elements from all these great leaders and teachers that we had at that time in the 60s and said that when I get of age, I would start a group called the Zulu Nation from seeing this movie back in the early 60s called Zulu, and it will incorporate all these different ideas and ideologies to do something for the people, to uplift the people, black, brown, yellow, red, and white, dealing with the truth, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding on anything that's everything.
Bambaataa wanted to create a new sound for the Zulu nation he had formed.
For I love no other one but you.
Now come on down and let I know that you love her so, and maybe that you never let her go. You can be so and so, so baby.
There was an old reggae tradition of DJs talking and singing over records as they played them. In the late 70s, this was brought to the Bronx by a Jamaican immigrant, DJ Kool Herc, who started doing it at street parties. Bambaataa was quick to follow his example.
With myself, I came right behind the brother, and I started picking up on all the different music that I was having in my record collection.
Bambaataa's choice of records to play was particularly unusual. The German group Kraftwerk had been experimenting with a computer-driven electronic sound. Although they had had some chart success without Urban, they were still largely considered a novelty act. Now their music found a new home in the black urban clubs of New York.
First, I want to know who was these funky white boys from Germany that had this futuristic sound. When I first heard Trans-Europe Express, I mean, I just went crazy and started getting it jammed at every party that we played in the Bronx. And it was the Zulu Nation that pushed the hell out that record that just caught on like hellfire with the black and Latino community. And I thought this would be the music for the future. So once I got into Trans-Europe Express, I started digging up a lot of other Kraftwerk records like Robots, Autobahn. So I looked around and I started saying, I don't see no black electronic groups. So when Kraftwerk came out with Numbers, I said, yeah, that's where the electro-funk would come.
Taking inspiration from Jamaican DJs, Bambaataa remixed Kraftwerk to create Planet Rock, a track which would provide the blueprint for a whole new musical movement. It was created with the help of a budding producer who used the newly affordable technology of samplers, sequencers, and drum machines to the full.
It's hard for me to imagine music before Planet Rock, actually. When I moved to New York and started hanging out with Bam, Trans-Europe Express was really one of his favorite records. And I think some of the reasons why, it was a drum machine. No rock groups and no soul groups really were using drum machines at that time. So the beat was really steady, they could mix to it, and it was an interesting sound. I mean, it was a really different sound.
You say.
Hip-hop had found its own distinctive musical voice.
This record, Kraftwerk, made my job easier. This record allowed me to go to the bathroom. This record allowed me to go get a soda. I can play it from and just go take a walk because it was funky. It didn't make sense to cut this record, to be DJing it. It DJ'd itself.
He say 1 for the trouble, 2 for the time.
Grandmaster Flash, along with Bambaataa, represented the start of a new phenomenon for the 80s, the DJ who could create hits as well as play them.
I would say I took an arrangement that was on wax and rearranged it. I took the particular pieces and parts and passages that I felt would keep the crowd in a frenzy. I guess I was just one big human sampler, so to speak. Once I was able to do that, I was able to start learning what I later called the acrobatics of doing the things I did on the turntable, which meant drop the record at the break part, push it out to the people, bend over, put it at the same section, and just keep constantly repeating it. You know, wham, 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 wham.
The first track to really make an impact on the world outside the Bronx came in 1982. Far from the usual inanities about life on the disco floor, the message gave a chilling account of ghetto existence.
Broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the stage, you know they just don't care. I can't take the smell, can't take the noise. Got no money to move out, I guess I got no choice. Rats in the front room, roaches in the back, junkies in the alley with the baseball bat. I tried to get away, but I couldn't get far, cause a man with a tow truck repossessed my car. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
Unlike all the other established genres of music, they're confined, meaning that 8 times out of 10, there had to be a melody, right? And on top of the melody, the singer had to sing in a certain key. There was an intro, there was a chorus, there was a bridge. With hip-hop, that don't matter. You can sing off key. Our subject matters that we can talk about are almost unlimited. Musically speaking, we can take a piece of Frank Sinatra. We can take a piece of Led Zeppelin, a horn blast from James Brown, a horn blast from anywhere. If it's properly strung together, this was hip-hop.
As rap and hip-hop took off, the music began to cross back over to white rock acts attracted by the sound.
Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning, I said, my, flash is fast, flash is cool, Francois, c'est pas, flash ain't no do, and you don't stop.
I really had never really written a rap, and I wasn't an experienced rapper, and it was so exciting. It really was part of that tradition of, you know, something new and something strange, and wow, this is really, nobody does this. This is really wild, and this is great, and it's very underground, and it's very hip, and it's, you know, it's really happening. And the shows, or the, I don't know what you would call them, the rap events or whatever, they were really sort of forbidden, and you know, mostly black kids would go, and it was just like, just wild, and everybody would get up there and just start, you know, yelling out their shit. And it was good.
I thought it was quite weird, but cute for Blondie to for example, you know, in the song Rapture. I mean, to this day, I don't know what she was talking about, but it was just cool just for her to make the attempt and do what she did for the record. It was quite a compliment to me to know that this particular style of music, which was new then, touched another race of people. This was great.
The vibrant New York sound caught the attention of a British band.
Most bands were placing an emphasis on guitars, and we thought we'd try and do something new and place the emphasis on the drums. If we did innovate in any area specifically, I would say it was taking this kind of electronic dance groove music out onto the stage and playing it live.
How does it feel when you treat me like you do? And you laid your hands upon me and told me who you are.
The desk that we wrote Blue Monday on, which was everyone considers to be like a technological revolution as a song, Blue Monday. It was the oldest desk I've ever seen in my life, and everything was done by hand on it. Everything, it was absolute murder. And I always remember one really nice thing was, which we were really flattered about, was that Kraftwerk booked in to Britannia Row to do their song to try and rip off Blue Monday. I think they were mortified when they saw the desk.
Blue Monday was sold only as a 12-inch single, causing initial resistance from radio. But when it sold 3 million worldwide, it helped establish the 12-inch as the format for dance music in the 80s. New Order now wanted to find a producer with the right cultural baggage.
When they came over to New York, I took them out to a small, demo studio in Brooklyn. And we, you know, as they tell it, I just stood over them waiting for them to do something. I don't really remember it that way, but that's the way they tell it, that I was sort of intimidating their creativity. But I don't think anyone can intimidate those guys.
We were expecting Arthur Baker to be like this really big flash producer who knew exactly what he was doing, and we were very nervous. And I think Arthur Baker expected this really flash band who knew what they were doing. And I remember sitting in this guy's house in the Bronx in New York for hours, just looking at each other, just scared to death, thinking, what the hell are we going to do? And we were just jamming, and it was like, oh, God, because it was the first time we'd ever gone in the studio without the track written.
So we went in basically and did 2 tracks. We came up with some stuff, and we did Confusion and the track that became Thieves Like Us, which, you know, I just gave them the multi of Thieves Like Us, and I finished Confusion. I brought the Roland 808 and my backward sounds, which was sort of the hip-hop thing at the time, the Funhouse sound. New Order brought the bass, the Pro 1, which we also use for the sequence. I brought the hand claps. They brought the guitar. They brought the melody. I brought the chant. And I brought the beat. We put it together and it sounded like this.
I always remember the really amazing thing. We finished the session and he took the tape off the reel and took it to the Funhouse, which was this mad club in New York, great place, and actually put it on and played it. Normally, whenever you finish doing something, you don't get the buzz of hearing it anywhere else for months and months, and by that time you've sort of lost it. And to actually, for him to take it out and play it was amazing.
Also inspired by the New York club scene came a young female artist called Lotta Shakin, who astutely adapted the sound for a wider audience.
What Madonna built on, to a certain extent, was the music that was coming out of the black clubs in New York. When we put out the first 12-inch, Madonna sounded so black on that record, and we didn't want to risk, the potential of the black market, buying the record, that we made a decision not to put her picture on the sleeve.
If at first her record company pretended Madonna was black, it was an illusion that became difficult to maintain with the growth of a new development in rock and roll.
You are about to participate in a cable adventure which reaches from the outer limits to your inner sanctum. You are experiencing the sight and sound of MTV, music television.
When MTV started broadcasting pop videos in the early 80s, it changed the way music was marketed. Although the new medium lent itself perfectly to dance music, at first MTV refused to show any black acts at all. When CBS insisted that they play Michael Jackson or they would refuse the use of other artists, MTV capitulated and Jackson became a worldwide star. Showing Michael Jackson on MTV was one thing, however, but hardcore rap was quite another.
You ain't gonna believe this place.
Word.
I'm telling you, come on, you're gonna bug.
Hey, this is a rock and roll museum. You guys don't belong in here.
I'm the king of rock, there is none higher. Sucker MCs should call me sire. To burn my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock dog parties and come correct. All cuts are on time.
With their stripped-down sound and 808 drum machine, Run DMC signaled a new era of tough, minimalist rap.
The reason why Run DMC used the rock guitar, on our records was because before rap records was made, before we was even rapping in the studio and going to make records, we used to have to find records to rock over. And being the type of rappers that we were, we didn't like rapping over anything that was soft or watered down. So we had to find big beats and loud, loud sounds that were just as massive and awesome as we were when we was attacking the microphone.
It's not Michael Jackson, and this is not Thriller. It's one death rapper. I know I can hang. I'm Run DMC, like who's cool in the gang. Roll to the rock to the roll. DMC stands for devastated mic control.
We would wear street clothes, use the street music and the old school flavor with the echo chambers and make it feel like it's straight out of 1970s in the park, and did it raw.
Every jam we play, we break 2 needles. There's 3 of us, but we're not the Beatles. My name is Darryl. You can call him D. You can call me Darryl Mack. Or you can call him DMC. People always ask DMC, what does it mean? These were never dirty. MC for mostly clean.
The major label's reluctance to sign rap acts left the market wide open for new street entrepreneurs, 2 of whom got together to form Def Jam Records.
I met Russell Simmons at a party, and he was surprised that I was white because I had produced a record that he really liked a lot. And there weren't any white people really involved in rap music at that time.
I had produced the first 2 Run DMC records. He loved them. He produced that It's Yours record, was my favorite record, So we just started working together. It had nothing to do with like color or anything, I mean, he definitely knew about things I didn't know anything about. And I knew about things he didn't know nothing about. And I guess that worked for both of us, I got to listen to some rock records I would never have heard at that time. And there were classics and stuff I didn't even know. I lived in a vacuum, and so and he did too about black music, but not about rap music because he was a fan, So we made a deal and we became partners. And we took Def Jam to Sony.
We finished the whole Run DMC album, and I thought it would be nice to have a cover song on it, as there'd been no rap artists had done any real cover songs to date. And I looked through my record collection and found Walk This Way, and the guys in the group were familiar with it. They thought the group that recorded it was called Toys in the Attic because that was the name of the Aerosmith album that it was on. And they used to just play the first 4 bars of the beat, and they used to rap over it, so they were familiar with the beat.
Run DMC's remake of Aerosmith's hit Walk This Way was for many in the white rock audience the first time they had heard rap. Initially, the rappers assumed that, as usual, they would simply be remixing the track.
That's all they wanted.
But Rick Rubin said, no, let's call this group, let's pull them up out of the wherever they're at and make the record over. I think it's a cool idea. We agreed. We don't know why we agreed, but
you had to learn the lyrics. Me and Run had to sit there with the record and go in the basement and learn the lyrics. Couldn't understand it, crying. Are you sure you don't want us to do this? Yes, go back and learn them. So we learned them, and Steve and Joe flew in, and we was all in the studio, MTV came, and Jam Master Jay got on the turntables and showed them what we used to do with their record in the parks. And it was like, wow, when am I going to sing? No, you don't get to sing, Steve. But then we did the record, and it blew up.
Making Walk This Way wasn't a problem. They were rapping over Walk This Way all their lives. But Run DMC went and said, we're just going to have a drum beat here. We're finished. I'm going home. I said, well, what about the bass line? I said, well, what about a bass line? That's for those other artists. We don't need them. We never needed them anyway, We usually cut the beats over our records, you know what I mean? Let's just go use a turntable, make a record. We ain't messing with no musicians today.
I remember when Walk This Way first came out, the new music station in Boston put it on, and Aerosmith is from Boston. And they put on the record, and they got so many hate calls, saying this is like sacrilegious. This is Aerosmith's town, and you're playing this, rap version, and it wasn't really. I mean, it was and it wasn't. If you listen to it, it's not that different, honestly. But I guess being as Run DMC were black, and being as Boston is the town that it is, a black artist doing an Aerosmith song in Boston just was not right. And so they took it off the air because they got so many hate calls. And by the end of the week of them not playing it, it became the #1 requested song on the station. So they started playing it again, and then it became a hit.
I was a high school loser, never made it with a lady. Till a boy told me something I missed. Then my next door neighbor, I thought I had a favor, and I gave together little kids like this.
The song revived Aerosmith's flagging career, but there was still resistance to rap.
July 13th, 7 a.m. One concert, over 60 artists. Only one channel has all 17 hours of Live Aid. MTV.
But not quite all. Run DMC were the only rap act on the bill. When they came on, MTV cut away to something safer. For a day in 1985, Live Aid turned the world into a global jukebox. But rap was still considered too dangerous to be included.
All right. Who the hell are you?
We're the band.
The band? Where's your instruments? What the...
When we first came out making hip-hop, people were just like mainly surprised because no white kids were really up on hip-hop or doing it too much. So like, I guess a lot of kids would just check it out and just be surprised to even hear that we were making that kind of music and just be like, what, you guys are white? Like they would think we were Puerto Rican or something or just not figure that we were white.
You wake up late for school, man, you don't want to go. You ask your mom, please, but she still says no.
I first met the Beastie Boys actually in a grill, just hanging out, because we were all punk rock people who really loved rap music.
Your teacher preaches class like you're some kind of jerk. You gotta fight for your right.
Rick definitely came from like a whole AC/DC, like Led Zeppelin, Long Island, like rock background. That wasn't, that he pretty much, I guess in that sense, kind of introduced us, because we kind of came from like punk rock, like, all right, forget about that shit, you know. We just wanted to, you know, do hip hop, and he kind of definitely brought that kind of in a big way. I mean, definitely we got real into it and got into the idea of like Led Zeppelin having beats, or, you know, AC/DC having grooves and beats, whatever.
They came by my office. They had on red sweatsuits and do-rags. I was like, and red Pumas or something, I think, I don't know. I was like shocked, because that's not the way it looked in Dance Interior. You know, the image was, we're rappers, don't we look like them? And I saw them perform, and they looked like themselves, and they were on stage. I said, why can't you be the Beastie Boys and be that? And they did, and they became, you know, they started not giving a fuck like their clothes and like their records. And attitude, too, because that's all they were anyway, kids who didn't give a fuck.
Licensed to Ill sold an incredible 4 million copies, the fastest-selling debut album in Columbia's history. The group went on to become a kind of worldwide scourge, just as the Sex Pistols had done some 10 years before.
We read Hammer of the Gods and thought that was funny. Like, yeah, we could do that. We could smash a TV. That'll be sick.
Yeah, or definitely like during the time that we were making License to Ill, I definitely remember like we would be going out to clubs like Dance Interior or whatever with like Rick and Russell every night, and to us it was just really funny at the time to kind of be, it was like almost making fun or you know, doing a parody on like that kind of culture, like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we act like this? And then at a certain point we actually started to act like that.
It's funny, when the Beastie Boys got popular, people were saying to me, oh, you know, they're so obnoxious, and it's like, well, it had nothing to do with them becoming successful. They were obnoxious from the moment I met them.
If the Beastie Boys' records were offensive to the ears, their live shows were an affront to all the senses.
But we're performers, you know, first, foremost, entertainers.
Just like MC Hammer.
And the show, yeah, and the show is first. It's the utmost for us.
People were really freaked out that all of a sudden, number one, we were having concerts where there were black groups and white groups performing on stage. You had black kids and white kids coming together in a way that they probably never would have for any other group at the time. And then, you know, all of a sudden we were like kind of in the heart of this like kind of Bible Belt conservative
and these kids
part of the
saying
country.
the worst things with their foul mouths.
These mad, nutty kids. So, you know, we kind of definitely freaked people out at that point.
And that was when the PMRC was really cool, when they were like right at their strongest peak. 1987, PMRC.
The Parents Music Research Center was formed as a direct response to rap's increasingly overt lyrics.
We are asking the recording industry to voluntarily assist parents who are concerned by placing a warning label on music products inappropriate for younger children due to explicit sexual or violent lyrics. We now propose one generic warning label to inform consumers in the marketplace about lyric content.
A lot of it was actually just kind of alienating because really it went so far beyond what even our wildest fantasies ever were of how we could possibly be portrayed or whatever. You know, I mean, so much of, like, say, with the British tabloids went so beyond fact and so far into fiction in terms of, like, you know, me with a little bag of whips.
That was true.
No sleep till Brooklyn!
We happened to come along at the right time of bringing hip-hop to a large number of people that maybe wouldn't have gotten it right then. But if we hadn't come along, there's no question in my mind somebody else would have, or another chain of events would have happened. Hip-hop music or rap music would have reached all those people eventually anyway.
By 1987, rap had started to become predictable, with a gold-chained macho style. But then, out of New York City, came Public Enemy.
Music can change things and it reflects things. Music can change and dictate because it's information or even misinformation being passed through, which will spark a response. Music is also reflective of what goes on. You know, action speaks louder than words, but words can dictate action. You know, life is not all music, but life can be a particular social politic. So that's bigger than the music. Music, you know, people don't need music, so to speak. People need food, shelter, and clothing. Music comes after that.
Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me. Yes, he's straight out racist. The sucker was simple and plain. Motherfucking John Wayne.
Well, Public Enemy was significant for a lot of reasons, you know. I mean, it's like Public Enemy didn't rap about partying, you know. I mean, Run DMC talked about a lot of social issues in a way, and so did a lot of people, but no one got political. Public Enemy talked about the state of black America, and every black kid in America was a public enemy, you know. That sort of helped to create another level of awareness for the rap audience, a lot of people in the rap audience. And it was very significant because it changed the way a lot of people made records.
Here it is, bam! And you say, damn, this is a dope jam. But let's define the term called dope, and you're thinking they funky now, no?
Rap music is sort of like the satellite of black communications now, because a person that's doing a record in South Central could get recognized in Poland from their own description via word.
Here is a true tale. Why the ones that deal, all the ones that fail, yeah. You can move.
The anger and the rage in Public Enemy was reflected by the uncertainty of a lot of our people. There's anger and there's rage, but not a lot of focus upon where this anger and rage is derived from, and we tried to do it in our music.
Talk about
Well, the establishment's reaction to Public Enemy has been expected because we provide that other point of view. They look at it as being controversial. Now, controversial just means that there's two sides to every story, maybe sometimes three sides. The right, the wrong, and the point that wants to go either way, you know, so we give that other side, especially from a black perspective.
Don't believe the hype. Yo, I don't keep bumping it. Yo.
By now, some rap videos were being aired by MTV, but more politicized rap, such as Public Enemy's, were still being overlooked.
MTV's reluctance was based on ignorance and a misunderstanding of facts. You know, the people that were programming it and conducting it in the early 80s were into their type of music, so that type of show reflected what they were into. The Michael Jackson thing came along and kind of usurped some of their surveys. And then, you know, rap was grossly misunderstood. And Run DMC proved with the combination with Aerosmith that it was bigger than that, but then still MTV probably thought that it was Aerosmith that was doing all the work.
Yo.
88 was the experiment with Yo MTV, which blew it up out of proportions, which actually in 88, 89, and 1990 proved that rap was more popular than anything else that they were showing on the network.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Los Angeles suddenly remembered it had an inner city as rap's focus of attention shifted to the West Coast.
Straight out of Compton, it's a crazy brother named Ice Cube. From the stupid dope gang with an attitude. When I'm caught off, I got a sword off. Kick knowledge and bodies on hard off. You too, boy, if you get with me. The police are gonna have to come and get me off your back. That's how I'm going out. For the sucker duck brothers that
If Public Enemy had stirred things up, it was as nothing compared to the establishment's outrage at the gun-glorifying gangster rap that came straight out of Compton.
dropping in your face. So give it up smooth. Ain't no telling when I'm down for a jack move. Here's a murder rap to keep you dancing.
Where it's come with this gangster rap, I think, you know, of course it's an illusion. And it's a fantasy type of situation. I don't believe a black person could be a gangster in America. Gangster is a person that can commit a crime, get away with it, and make somebody else pay for it, namely us most of the time. And then if you want to be a gangster, you want to fight for power. But, you know, a lot of us are fighting each other, and we're all powerless.
Don't ask to battle me, homeboy, what's that? You wanna battle me, boy, you better be strapped. Cause where I'm from, it ain't about all that playing. Now that's what I'm saying.
In 1988, the East Coast was ready to rise again with the humor and melody of De La Soul. Their 3 Feet High and Rising album was so influential, it was dubbed the Sgt. Pepper of rap.
Being here made us see just a different light. I mean, people in the Bronx might have seen, you know, crime on an everyday basis and might have seen problems within the community on an everyday basis. I think being out here just basically opened up our minds. We wasn't like cluttered with all the noise and all the crime and all the, you know, all the, I guess, things that every other rapper's talking about, yeah.
know, it was strictly on some experimentation. You know, that's the level it was, you know. We had our set, you know, theories, our set concepts we wanted to do, but if something happened, if you spilled milk on the turntable and it sounded dope, it just stayed. That's the way we operated.
But when it comes to being De La, it's just me, myself, and I. 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 Now you tease my plug one style and my plug one spectacle. You say plug 1 and 2 are hippies nowhere, not just pure plug bull.
With the first album, it reminded a lot of people of Woodstock, the 60s and all of that, and a lot of people felt that we were bringing back that era, which,
we had nothing to do with it.
We had
didn't
nothing,
know anything about it.
I didn't know anything about it myself, you know, but if it reminded people of that, cool, you know, it's not a problem. I'm glad, you know, I mean, it brought back some memories for people, and they can get into our music behind that. You know, they had their own visual aspect of what De La Soul was all about, but hippies, we were not, you know.
People think they diss my person by stating I'm darkly packed. I know this, so I point at Q-Tip and he states black is black. Mirror, mirror on
Sampling from across the musical spectrum was a strong feature of De La Soul, but a $1 million lawsuit by the Turtles, although settled out of court, was to make them and others more cautious.
They've made such insignificant changes to the sound recording that it is still infringement as far as we're concerned, and they have violated our exclusive rights in the sound recording.
Quelle heure? Quelle heure est-il?
Now you have to clear everything, whether it's a holler or a whole entire bar of a music. You know, your lawyer already you usually sit down with your lawyers at the beginning of your album, you know, the lawyer who works at the record company or whatever, and they'll tell you, well, at this present time, you know, what's his name? Herb Alpert don't like rap no more. He don't want you to sample from him. Don't touch his stuff. Or Herb Alpert's asking for $8,000 up front. Do you want to pay that? You know, they'll let you know what's going on. And you get, like, basically this big sheet of who not to mess with, or you know if you're going to mess with them, you got to pay some dough. And it's on you to use it or not.
First you get your record, your rare groove, or whatever sound that you choose to sample. Just, you know, try not to sample nothing that's going to get you sued. Place your record on the turntable. Play your groove or your sound that you're trying to sample. Get your level on it. First you have to assign it to the channel that you like. And go to get your level. Sample is caught. You go to edit sample. To the channel you assigned it to. Turn your levels all the way up. And proceed to edit your sample to where you want to start it at. And there you have it.
When you got music that black people control and black people have something to at least show and say, you know, we're proud of what we're doing, it's always pimped and it's always turned into a money vehicle and it's always dried out. But I think because of the fact that we as the youth and as black people, we love rap, we love hip-hop, and we're gonna do our best to keep it living.
In Detroit, machine-made music was taken to its most extreme by a producer who used computers to create long, repetitive dance rhythms, a new style of music called techno.
Well, I've said that techno is the genocide of music from 20 years ago. I think the reason I would say that is probably because so many different forms of music have evolved from black music. And I mean, with the whole sort of history of what jazz and what happened in the 30s and with the 20s with jazz and with the Duke Ellingtons and the Louis Armstrongs and even the Josephine Bakers, I mean, that was all a form of black progressive music at one point. At one point, that was the techno of its journey, you know, that was the techno of its time. has given us an opportunity to tap into history, you see, in a way that we never could do it before. And that gives us the opportunities to really create our own perspective of what we've been brought up with all our lives. Techno has informed every form of music. I had Depeche Mode in my house a few years ago, on my fucking living room floor. New Order. You know, I've had people come into my house just to knock on the door to hang out. They wanted to know what the fuck this music was, basically. Where it came from, who was doing it, how could you do it? At the same time, we always admired these type of people because they were, to us, pioneers.
The new sound was considered too avant-garde for the American mainstream, and once again, it was Europeans who would first pick up on it.
I never really understood the way that with dance music, where people fought against it. I mean, even in America, when New Order used to go, there was a lot of resistance from you using sequences. Americans didn't like using sequences, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's a machine, and it just does what you tell it to do. I mean, it has to be written by somebody.
I find the fact that a machine you can use a machine to create a piece of music, I find it very, very interesting. And I'd rather see a room full of machines coming out with a great dance track than some boring fat session musicians who are way past the sell-by date, playing music that is way past its sell-by date as well.
It's sad in the 20th century, and in the 90s, we have to still go the same bullshit route that other artists have had to go to get acceptance. Black artists. Because we're not entertaining bouffon idiots, we have to go someplace else to be accepted. And that's absolute bullshit. If it wasn't for the independence, if it wasn't for the small little dinky little cities and the few little ghetto black guys trying to make music, it would have never happened. As quiet as it's kept. Some of these guys will never make a dime. Some of these guys will be poor and die alone. But in the process, they've been the true renegades. And the true rebels always walk alone anyway.
The new electronic producers like Derek May were often relatively anonymous and found it difficult to get their work played on American FM radio. The music had to find its listeners in small clubs where, in cities like Chicago, it was nurtured and developed by a DIY underground dance scene.
The main focus of any great club has always been the dance floor and the sound system. When you take clubs like Continental Baths or the Loft, the Garage, the Warehouse in Chicago, the thing that was being sold at those clubs was the dance floor and the sound system. Those are the most important things. I didn't know very much about a whole lot of the technology. Probably the person that helped me to think about moving into production a lot more seriously was Derek May. Derek May gave me my first drum machine. He used to always tell me, you know, you really ought to think about being a producer.
Jack the Beat Godfather. Jack the Beat Godfather, father, Jack the Beat Godfather.
More melodic than techno, house music took its name from a club called the Warehouse, where Frankie Knuckles was the resident DJ.
Back in 1989, I was doing a remix for the Pet Shop Boys, Left to My Own Devices.
I could leave you, say goodbye.
And the song was like 138, 140 beats per minute. And they wanted me to do a house mix on it, and I just thought that was entirely too fast. And the only way I can do with it what I needed to do with it was I needed to slow it down.
Say goodbye, I could love you if I tried, and I could, and left to my own devices.
I think the necessity of house mixes and remixes on so much music that comes out, especially the rock music, it doesn't always work. Lil Louis Vega just finished remixing a song for Julio Iglesias. And he did a whole house thing. You know, he did the typical Masters at Work thing with it, which, I'm sorry, I don't see Julio Iglesias in here.
Get up on the dance floor.
first time I actually realized that house had become a worldwide, I guess, quote-unquote phenomena was with Madonna's Vogue. I just looked at that record and what it had done here in the United States, and I just thought, it's legit now.
Back to life, back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to the here and now.
By 1989, the clubland sound was so successful that Soul to Soul made the top of the charts on both sides of the Atlantic by combining American hip-hop with British funk and Jamaican bass lines.
Fat skinny man died of a big disease with a little name. By chance his girlfriend came across a needle and soon she did the same. At home their 17-year-old boys and they had dear fun. Being a gang called the disciples high on crack. Told no machine gun.
The explosion of black dance music and its effect on rock and roll was brilliantly summed up by Prince. He showed how a combination of melody and guitars, the focal points of the 60s and 70s generations, could now be combined with 80s dance rhythms to give new life to rock and roll.
Hurricane out of the ceiling off the church and kill everyone inside. You turn on the telly and there they are the stories telling somebody died. Sister killed her baby cause she couldn't afford to feed it and was sending people to the moon. September my cousin tried to reefer for the very first time. And now he's doing horse. It's June.
But even with all this diverse wealth of sounds, some were still looking for the perfect beat. Approaching the 90s came bands that would push the barriers even further, with 15-minute soundscapes, montaging samples and sequences, which seemed to sum up the musical adventures of the 80s.
In the earlier part of the 80s, there was still this undeniable urge to release records with choruses and verses, even with dance music. Fortunately, bands like Run DMC came along and using a huge 808 bass sound, which no one had ever really heard as a bass drum before, recreated this whole new sound, which became the bass and drums, which to a lot of people who listen to reggae would be laughing because to them that's what it was all about in the first place, was the bass and drums. Used to get these tapes sent religiously from New York on Friday night Kiss FM tapes from Chuck Chill Out and Shep Pettibone, who later on became a producer and started producing people like even Madonna, should we say. But he was doing things to New Order, which I'd never heard before. You see a connection when you think, well, I really like what Derek May's doing, why does it sound so different? And then you find out that he liked Kraftwerk. There's an answer. House was another ballgame entirely. I got eaten up by it.
In the late 80s and into the 90s came the summers of love. Thousands of people traveling in convoys, gathering in fields, and dancing through the night. The imagery was reminiscent of the hippie trails of the 1960s, complete with a love vibe, except this time with a different soundtrack.
I've never seen 20,000 people in a field with no real supervision. So many different types of people in that club, but they're all really loving each other. Well, DJs took over the part of being the band without actually being seen as a band. You could, again, go to a club and become the band by dancing to the DJ's music. That's where the Orb started off. The mixing desk itself live has become another instrument with us, but it's used for two entirely different purposes. One is to make a completely different arrangement out of something that's been made in the studio in the first place. We then moved it forward and put a live drummer on stage with us to play through a mixing desk, and a live bass player and a live percussionist. Now we can start experimenting from just doing 12-minute takes to doing like 40-minute versions live, using technology and old instruments together.
The skies like when you were young?
They went on forever. We lived in Arizona, and the skies always had little fluffy clouds, and they were
Although a total break from all the established pop rules, this new ambient sound was to earn the Orb 3 platinum albums.
They were beautiful, the most beautiful.
The feel I've had for music is just through being able to travel and finding different types of music. Anyway, that's mainly a lot of that is a lot of influence for me. Music from around the world, be it from South America, be it from India, be it from Asia, be it from Africa.
Bonsoir au Mali, bonsoir en Afrique, bonsoir sur le reste de la planète.
And so the journey that Africa Bambaataa started at the beginning of the 80s continues on through time and space, with videos and the satellite age opening up influences from around the world, and computers allowing access to all of musical history. His vision of a planet rock has become a reality. No longer dismissed as fringe movements, rap, reggae, house and techno are part of the very fabric of contemporary music. From its original roots in the Mississippi Delta, rock and roll has now truly become a global phenomenon, reinventing itself for each new generation.
Como de bairro